What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to Mindful Gains. I'm Bryce. In this video, I'm going to share a bit about my story, why I had to quit drinking, why I learned to reparent myself. This is all from one of my subscribers commenting on one of my videos about reparenting yourself. So I told him I'd make a video where I addressed this because it was kind of complex. So this video is for you, and I appreciate you commenting. So I want to read this person's comment so that you have a little context of what I'm talking about. This is a comment on my video about reparenting too. So I was asked, if it is okay, I'd like to ask you about your journey. How hard was the work for you and what made it hard? What did you struggle with? Your process of learning and practicing, for example, that parenting of inner child. How many times did you feel like giving up, but still decided to try again? And I appreciate that comment because I just thought it was an awesome comment, and it gives me an opportunity to kind of peel back some layers about myself. I know that I pump out a lot of videos, and some of y'all may be like, how did he get to this point? How are you even able to create this content? What happened in your life to bring you here? Okay, so I drank for a long time. I started drinking when I was probably maybe 17, and I didn't really pick up the habit at that time, but that was my first exposure to drinking at an early age. And I think it stunted my developmental process, on an emotional level, how to regulate myself and things of that nature. So without going back too deep into my teenage years, that's kind of when I first kind of picked it up. And I also grew up in a toxic household. So the combination of those things did not set me up for success starting out as a young man. So I also bounced around a lot. I grew up in New Jersey, but I lived in quite a few different states growing up. My parents were divorced and whatnot. So I spent some time in Cali. That's where I was at right out of high school. Party scene. I've experimented. I was having a lot of fun at the time, but I wasn't growing emotionally. I wasn't maturing. It was stunted. And coming out of that household that I had come out of, I saw a lot of unhealthy conflict. I never saw how to carry yourself as a man in a relationship. Never saw it. So compounding that with alcohol use and recreational drug use here and there, it was just kind of a recipe for disaster. And I would live this way for quite some time. I would continue to drink as I got older. In my early 20s, in my late 20s, alcohol was always a part of my life. I spent a lot of years in the serving industry. So if you're a server, you know what I'm talking about. When y'all get off work, we're going to go have a few beers. We're going to talk about the shift we just had, shoot the shit. We're going to have a good time. But for my personality, I didn't really have an off switch. I was somebody who would just kind of drink and drink. I didn't really drink liquor because I had really crappy experiences when I would drink liquor. So I was mostly a beer drinker, but I would drink a lot of it. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. So, I would drink quite a bit. And once I would get deep into it on certain evenings, this would not happen every evening, but my personality would change, as I'm sure maybe some of you have experienced out there. And then I would have to go back and repair relationships, apologize for my behavior. And that type of behavior and that type of pattern would happen for years. And I carried that all the way up until my 30s. So yes, I drank for a long time. I had to finally give that up when I was I would say maybe about 34 or so. And when I gave up drinking, that was just the first step. But like I said, my development had been stunted, is the only way I can really describe it. So once I stopped drinking, my ability to emotionally regulate myself when I would get triggered or when I was in an argument, especially in close relationships, intimate relationships with my girlfriend at the time or the mother of my kids, that would still happen even after I quit drinking. So I knew I had some other things that I had to deal with. I had a temper, all those things that I had seen when I was a young man, that unhealthy conflict that I saw in my life, all that would start to pour out in my relationships. It was like I was literally replaying the same exact behavior that I saw. So I'm a person who's really big into self-improvement, if you don't know already. I'm big into self-reflection and introspection and going deep within myself to kind of fix problems. I'm like a fixer of myself. So I quit drinking, but I still had this other shit that I had to deal with. And I would start therapy. I started on my journey, and that kind of started opening some doors for me and peeling back certain layers. I started learning how to become more aware of my breathing, started implementing meditation. So I started picking up these tools that were helping me to learn how to kind of ground myself when I would become unconscious, is kind of how I refer to it. And what I mean by becoming unconscious is like when you get triggered, when you get mad, if you're in an argument with somebody, you become unconscious. You fall into that automatic autopilot type of response. It's like you don't have control, and you don't have the ability to slow down enough to kind of come from a place of groundedness. That was my problem. I didn't know how to regulate myself. So when I would get pissed off, I would just kind of just react. I didn't know how to slow down. I didn't know how to pause. I was in defense mode. I was coming from a place of ego. I used to take a lot of things personally. I'm talking about everything personally. So on this journey, I started therapy. It wasn't like the greatest therapy in the beginning stages. It was real cheap therapy, but the therapist was giving me tools and met me where I was at. And then I moved on to, maybe it was like I graduated to another level of therapy. So on my therapeutic journey, after a few years of seeing different therapists, I stumbled across this therapy called internal family systems, or IFS. And that therapy, it presents itself as like, it says that our personalities are made up of a bunch of different parts. Okay. And what it means, what I mean by parts is like, say when I would get pissed off, a part of me would take over that dynamic, that interaction, and would like defend myself. So like that 15-year-old boy or that 9-year-old boy that was hurt when he was a kid, based off of what I saw in my household, he would kind of take over these arguments when I was in my relationships and kind of just drive the car. And I didn't really know what was going on until I stumbled across IFS, when it broke it down like, look, we're made up of a bunch of different parts. And IFS kind of says that like the center point is self. And what I'm saying is like the center point, meaning me, my authentic self, who I've grown into, who I was becoming even back then. That's the place that I want to respond from when I get triggered. So what I had to do was I had to start to acknowledge that part of me, that 15-year-old boy, that 9-year-old boy, maybe even that 4-year-old boy that was seeing crazy chaos in his household. When I would get pissed off and I didn't know how to regulate myself, I would have to learn how to like validate that young boy. And what I mean by that is be like, I'd have to get curious with like, why am I mad? And then I'd have to acknowledge the anger. I'd have to be like, hey, bro, I'd literally have to talk to myself like this. Like, it's okay that you're feeling angry. Like talking to the little version of myself. And it's okay that you feel sad about this. And I learned this. I didn't go so deep into IFS, to be honest. I only went for like a few sessions, but it was just another piece of my journey where, I did a lot of digging on YouTube and stuff like that. And I have some books on it. But what I'm saying is I didn't even have to go all that deep into it. Once I was exposed to that idea and that understanding of myself and how that hurt, unresolved trauma that I had experienced as a child was popping up in my relationship, and not even just a relationship, just in everyday life when I would get triggered. And it was like I had a lot of healing to do. It was like I underestimated the power of the trauma that I had experienced. And the relationship that I was in a relationship for almost about 7.5 years. That relationship showed me a lot of my blind spots. That's where a lot of this stuff really boiled to the surface. Now, I've been in other relationships where my same unhealthy behavior would happen, but I was in no place to where I was ready to really address it. I was not in a place to where I even knew what the hell was going on. And frankly, I didn't care. I was drinking very heavily at that time when I'm talking about in my mid-20s and stuff like that. But when I got into this later relationship I'm referring to, and I got two small children out of this relationship, that one really showed me my blind spots. And I would overreact in situations. I came from that place of yelling and trying to defend myself, and wasn't a very nice guy when I would get what I refer to as like level 16. I was never a guy that would just wake up pissed off. I wasn't, just walking around cussing people out. But when I was in that intimate relationship and I would run into disagreements with my partner, or I just didn't know how to navigate a relationship healthily. I didn't even know what the hell that looked like, except for Family Matters on TV with Urkel, or Fresh Prince or stuff like that. Boy Meets World, the stuff I grew up with. That's the only time I really saw how to have healthy conflict. And that's make-believe. That's TV. So the reparenting component, it kind of started from the IFS therapy, but it's just a piece of my journey that I picked up along the way where I realized the value in reparenting myself, having to go back and acknowledge my inner child, that boy that experienced a lot of trauma, saw a lot of nonsense growing up, and I just replayed that same nonsense throughout my life until I became aware enough to know how I was acting, how I was showing up. So that reparenting it was just a part of my journey. And not to get so sidetracked here, I'm just kind of coming off the top of the head here. I don't have my bullet points and everything written like I usually do. So I don't want to get so far away from that comment that my subscriber left, asking me how many times did I want to give up? And honestly, like, I never really wanted to give up on this journey, because I'm the type of individual that once I start discovering different aspects of myself, I'm a guy who's like trying to be better. Once I realize that it's like, damn, that's why I've been doing that, or, that's why I've been exhibiting this type of behavior. And now I'm recognizing it. And now I know how to or what I have to do to not do that anymore. Like, I never wanted to give up on this journey. I just wanted to be better. The challenges that I really did encounter was, even when I recognized what my problem was, that behavior would still pop up. Even though I knew, like, damn, I'm talking shit when I get angry. I can step into name calling. To be fully transparent with y'all, that's kind of what I stepped into, the name calling aspect. Like, that's the shit that I saw when I was a kid. Just like very emotionally immature. Didn't know how to carry myself. Defensive. Tearing somebody else down. And it's because it was coming from a place of hurt. It's like, I feel hurt, so I have to hurt you. It's a very unfortunate, sad cycle that kept happening until I was able to get a hold of it and really do a lot of internal work to kind of counteract that. So to answer that part of the question, I never wanted to give up. Once I discovered how I needed to address certain behaviors, I just kept going with it. I just kept going down the rabbit hole. I just kept trying to figure out, okay, how can I be better? How can I apply this to my life? And just, that's ultimately my story. Like, that's really what happened. I used to drink a lot, had to quit drinking. But even when I quit drinking, there was still so much work that had to be done. And I had to learn how to reparent myself. That was a big part of it. I had to learn how to emotionally regulate myself. And what I mean by that is, when I would get triggered, take the time to pause, slow down, step away, like, go for a walk, go do something, get away from this energy that I've created. And I didn't know how to do that for a long part of my life. And self-regulation is so important. And I don't think a lot of us are taught that. And that's why I would be very overreactive in situations, and just, it wasn't a good look. I did it for a very long time too. So I'm very proud of myself that I was able to kind of get a hold on this. I'm not a master or anything. This is a moment-to-moment practice that, just because I'm aware of it now, I still have to be intentional and still have to work to be able to present myself in a more authentic, regulated way, because I didn't know how to do it for so long. So yeah, I'm not some guru. When I put my videos out, I'm just sharing some of these tools that I'm sharing right now. I just share those in my videos to maybe help somebody else who deals with the same stuff that I dealt with. So I hope that this video provided you with some value. If it did, please hit that like button. That like button that's right down there. It does so much for this video, and I would really appreciate it. You know, if the content resonated with you, just go ahead and click that. Make sure you check out some of my other videos. I think you'll enjoy those as well. And for that subscriber that left that comment, I hope this kind of answered your question, and I'll just see y'all in the next video. All right, peace.